You guys, are we good? Do you want me to redo it, Marissa, or start from?
Sorry.
Oh, no worries. So again, got a roll call here from this committee. We have myself, Sean O'Neill, we have Thor, and we have Kevin. Other board members present is Jim and Wayne. From Eaglecrest, we have Marissa, and then from CBJ, we have Brecken and Emily Wright. Um, for today's agenda, we're going to kind of just discuss, social media comments, building community support, kind of look at upcoming marketing campaigns, and kind of review a social media policy review. Um, are you guys okay with that agenda? Is there anything you guys would like to pick off or add? And then kind of might need some of your input here, Marissa. So, when we initially took or got rid of social media comments, of course, there was a lot of community members like wanting those back on. Um, I
Sean,
kind of just wanted to
yeah,
feel out, kind of what your guys' thoughts are and all that. I see the benefit of because of the Facebook, especially Facebook comments, because it does provide, Eaglecrest, kind of it's kind of our day-to-day communication, so by allowing those comments, we kind of get more feedback, and it could be since the community is a little disappointed about turning them off, it could, kind of help with kind of building community support.
hey,
Um,
Sean,
yes.
uh, just back up. We probably ought to touch the base of actually getting a motion from one of the committee members to approve the agenda before we jump.
Oh, okay. Are you guys, or would someone like to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda
Okay, sweet. So yeah, and then,
with unanimous consent. Sorry.
okay. And then moving on to those social media comments, mostly just Facebook comments, kind of it by turning them on, it kind of gives us, kind of more of a real-time insight. It lets us kind of view community patterns and stuff like that. Just kind of have a, finger on the pulse for the community. Um, but also it is social media there and employee safety and stuff like that is a priority, I mean, comments were getting a little bit heated there, and unfortunately, it kind of started, once anyway. So moderating that seems to be kind of the difficult portion, you know, and there's probably a little bit more going on. So I don't know, Marissa, can you speak to that, or so we have some insight there.
Yeah. Um, I actually think Emmeline might be able to speak to this a little better than I can, just from a CBJ policy standpoint, or just
Okay.
a CBJ standpoint. I can give you my personal Eaglecrest employee. Um,
Up to you. Any opinions are kind of nice, just to provide more context, more
I
insight.
mean, I mean, the comments got a little intense.
Hmm.
Um, as an employee, sometimes it's really hard not to take those personally. Um, and it kind of sometimes just feels like an attack on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just that's my personal, very personal, not even CBJ or like Eaglecrest employee. Like that's my very personal thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Just for a little bit of more background and um I wasn't following those very closely. Do you guys have some examples of some particularly bad ones? Or, I mean, I think everybody's kind of saying things like a little intense, but it sounds like it was actually more intense than that. And
I don't have any like direct things, but I mean, one kind of came up to me was just like kind of calling out ski patrol staff, and stuff like that. That one kind of stuck, I feel like it's one thing if people are complaining about, us as the board, or the GM and all, then maybe, because we're kind of, you know, it's sorry. Um, I don't know. So it's kind of like it's people
When
have their opinions and all. It's just more when it's focused, I think, on a single employee. I think that's where issues started going on.
when like support staff started to be single-handedly called out, like that that hurt a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
definitely not
I
appropriate.
mean, I don't think that went into this decision at all, but I mean, just as my personal Eaglecrest employee
Sure.
perspective.
Wayne, you got your
But yeah,
hand up?
it was discussed internally also before we decided that was the best action in that moment.
Yeah, it might be helpful before we hold the comment, social media comments to actually talk about the policy. Because if you post the policy and say this is to talk about issues, not personalities, I mean, you set a clear set of standards and rule for people to post, and then someone is monitoring that on a routine and regular basis. So they can't say that asshole Wayne Stevens from the board made a stupid decision or, stuff like that. You can just say, sorry, that's got to go, not appropriate, etc. Um, but if you don't have a clear set of statements for policy for commenting, it does become a free for all, and everybody seems to think that it's okay to um, the standards of civility in this country have gone down the sewer hole, quite frankly.
So we'll get to that in a second here, Wayne. Because there is CBJ's 1405 for social media, like a social media policy, and it does give, CBJ staff or um, kind of those in charge of the social media outlets the ability to kind of monitor and remove comments if they follow a certain set of, you know, kind of tone and all. So I wasn't sure, so that's kind of a thing I was kind of looking at. Jim, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'd be interested in hearing what Emily's perspective is on this, on the general question. Then we can sort of kick it back and forth ourselves on what our perspectives are on the social media issue.
There I am. Okay. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay. So in general, anytime we're looking at social media, First Amendment, we're always watching for that content neutral, viewpoint neutral scenario. So big advice from CBJ Legal is best practice is comments are either on or off. And that's always going to be our first go-to, that we're not picking individual things to delete or censor or remove. However, I will say CBJ does have a comment policy. I haven't seen the Eaglecrest social media policy. I assume that it's fairly similar. But CBJ comment policies are that we will monitor for um, inappropriate comments. So this is obscene language, threatening a person, violating the legal ownership or interest of another party, promoting any illegal activity, or promoting commercial services or products. So as long as we have a general policy, we're applying it no matter what, then you should be good. The places you're going to get in trouble are if we are deleting comments that are critiquing or negative or responding to something that's maybe uncomfortable. So it's a tough area, as we all know, with social media.
Mhm.
And then just so you guys are aware that we do follow the CBJ policy
Perfect.
as a
Okay.
CBJ entity. Yeah.
Okay.
Kevin? Or
Yep. Emily, would there be any problem with adding to the Eaglecrest policy just that individual staff members um shouldn't be attacked? We can take down posts. Like the purpose is not so that people can attack individuals, although I would assume that they can attack decisions or policies or something like that. Is that problematic?
So, recommendation would be to keep it fairly general. Both the CPJ policy and, for example, school board policy for their school board meetings, it says something general that's like, we encourage civil discourse, we encourage general, I don't know. I think the school board one says like kindness and thoughtfulness, something a little bit more kid friendly, but you can do that. Unfortunately, as members of a government staff, every single one of us are open to public critique. So the way that we normally handle that is we're encouraging civil discourse and we handle things on an individual basis. That's your best bet.
Thanks.
Yep.
Kevin, I want to add, Marissa just mentioned that they follow the CBJ policy, which means that we don't really have a published Eaglecrest specific policy. And it's
That
a little
is
tough.
that is correct. And then just so you guys are aware, when comments were turned off, a lot of those things that Emily just spoke to, that's what was happening in our comments section. So just so you guys are aware.
Yeah. So for intent and purpose, the city policy doesn't seem to apply. Like for instance, the policy guidelines, the first item, letter A, says that everything is subject to approval by the city manager. So semantics, that's not happening. So that's something that we would change. And if we were going to adopt the city social media usage for CBG employees, we would change it to Eaglecrest letterhead. And there's a couple things in here I like where it says everything needs to be downloaded so that we're not going to be deleting records as the policy is to serve a utility to communicate between the public and this in the city department. And so deleting comments without keeping a record wouldn't be appropriate. So those are some guardrails I like in this policy, but I think that we would need to tune it a little bit. End of my comment.
It's like Brecken has something to say. Oh, you're muted still, Brecken.
Thank you. Regarding record retention, I'd love to come back to that once a draft policy is put together. That is something we need to consider. That is something that we do have a system for our Facebook, and we need to make sure I'll connect with Marissa about that. But thank you for considering records with this.
Yeah, and that's for if we are going to if we're going to take things that are deemed inappropriate and remove them. So if it's an attack on an employee, someone says Marissa doesn't do a good job, we can get rid of that, but we can have a record of it. So if someone says, "Hey, I think that we're deleting comments and we shouldn't be," let's take a look. And the general manager would have the ultimate say over that. Is in my suggestion. So.
Sure. And just to say it out loud, all of those, everything on Facebook, all of that is a record. So we just need to care for the retention of that in the records retention schedule, which is a conversation that's happening right now with staff. So regardless of what the content is, it is a record of some sort.
And then Jim, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm not a social media person, so I'm sure my perspectives are probably different than people that are part of the 21st century. But I guess I would ask, what's the point of our Facebook page? I would think that it would be for us to, it's a marketing tool for us. Here's what's going on at Eaglecrest, and here's the skiing conditions, and here's whatever update we want to provide on operations. That's of great value. But if it's also intended to be a way for us to take in public comments, then that's a very different thing. And my view is that Facebook and the like are just terrible ways to gather public comment, because people pile on, people are inappropriate, and it's destructive to morale and just not a good tool. Eaglecrest got along for a long time with just if you have a comment or a question of management or staff or the board, here's an email address, or here's a portal, or here's some way that you can submit your comment. So my preference to this would be that we just, there's not an opportunity for people to add their 2 cents worth and pile on and avoid this whole question of what we filter out and what we don't. If there's, I don't know if there's, it seems like if people have a strong need to have some way to talk with one another about what's going on at Eaglecrest, then people are perfectly at liberty to create their own Facebook page or other tools. I just don't see any benefit to what invariably happens when you have wide open Facebook, input. But anyway, like I say, that's my old-fashioned perspective, and I'll leave it at that.
I think a lot of Eaglecrest employees might kind of align with what Jim just said.
Okay.
So, let me know if I'm butting in here, but while I deep down completely agree, and I've communicated with some friends who do this for a living, and they've pointed to some research that suggests eliminating comments from your social media reduces trust in the eye of the public. And there's some data to support that. So if anyone's interested, I would gladly point you toward it. And that's just a possible fact that does actually bother me a little, because it would be nice if we could just use it for marketing.
Yeah, understandable. And so it sounds kind of like we just need to figure out really, is it just for us to give, day-to-day updates, or are we using it to kind of gauge how to market towards the community and nationally and all that? Um, I guess my big thing is, if we do look at a policy to make sure employees feel safe, but also, so give a means to moderate and kind of a suggestion on how to moderate if that comes to it, or just leave them on and just not engage with those posts and stuff like that. Um, yeah, I kind of see both sides of it, and that's kind of why, it's up for discussion. Um, dude, I don't know if we're gonna get like kind of far without really knowing what the marketing team's use of it is and what their kind of theories as the professionals in marketing. And also like what the GM, what Aaron kind of seems to be in line with too. Um, but so if you guys want, we could either kind of move on or kind of keep discussing this, but it
So
seems like we can go two routes here.
I know personally that Aaron's kind of aligned with us that social media is for marketing.
All right.
We're trying to work towards like you're gonna go to the website for operational things. Social media is a little bit more for social media like marketing type of deal.
Kevin?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think that your idea of letting Aaron make the decision on this yeah, consulting with the marketing staff is probably the best move. I mean, I was actually completely convinced by Jim. And then when Thor mentioned that, I was like, well, maybe there's a reason to leave them on. So I think that yeah, there are good reasons to go either way. And um, we do want to restore trust, but we also want to make sure that Eaglecrest employees are not only safe, but kind of just protected from needless attacks.
Yeah, so what are your guys' thoughts? Should we kind of table this and keep this as an open discussion, or kind of have a discussion, with the full board and kind of see how they're thinking and discuss further with Aaron?
I think next technical steps would be for it to move on from the committee to the full board. I think if you were wanting it to move on, that would be like the next steps.
Can I ask a question, Sean? So however this works out, do we see like a an action item in front of the full board that would be to direct Aaron to establish a social media policy that supports public input to Facebook, or what's the end game here, do you think?
Well, right now I'm kind of thinking, since we don't have, marketing on this meeting and we don't have Aaron on this meeting, kind of keeping this on our discussion, for the next committee meeting here. Um, just since we don't have their input, I'd be open if we want to have a discussion with the full board. Um, but without that insight, I mean, what do you guys think? We could bring it and see if we can, you know, review a policy and focus on that. Or we could kind of keep this a discussion and kind of feel out how things are going, with the community and stuff like that over the next few weeks. Kevin?
I was going to suggest that one other thing too. At the university, we have a really good social media person, Katie Jordan, and it might be really helpful for the Eaglecrest marketing staff. I could put them in touch and kind of think about the way, the university has the exact same issues where we have yeah, a lot of social media and sometimes really negative comments, and just being able to move and kind of negotiate in that space might require a little more subtlety, but I think that might help Eaglecrest and the Eaglecrest marketing staff if you guys are open to that.
Yeah, I definitely would be. More input we can give and is better. Emily, you have a question?
I just want to flag, I just want to make sure you guys keep in mind, even though you are an empowered board, you are still part of CBJ. So you are bound by those CBJ policies. You still need to check in with CBJ communications. Any policy you put together has to come to law. So I just want to flag those process pieces to make
Okay,
sure we keep you going forward.
sounds good.
Okay.
Um, and then do you guys mind if we kind of just table this right now and kind of discuss further and kind of do our own, maybe it's a good time for us to do our own research, kind of come up more with our own kind of opinions as well. Like I said, I'm 50-50. I see Jim's side, I see the marketing, like Thor's side, and that giving us, active feedback, real time feedback. Um, but
Yeah,
so,
Sean, so sorry to interrupt.
mhm.
I think as far as the mechanics of this, I'm in favor of establishing a policy that allows Eaglecrest to control their social media in the parameters we all agree on, and that would include turning on comments, moderating however we see fit.
Right.
And so I think as the chair, you're going to be reporting on what the committee wants, and that would provoke a motion at the meeting of the whole for the board.
Right.
And so I think if you favor that idea, then I do too. So I'm not sure exactly how to move through an impasse here at the committee level with the fellow committee members, because Wayne, it's you, me, and Wayne, right?
Oh, and Kevin.
Kevin.
No, sorry, Kevin. Gosh, we all come to every meeting, so it's it's hard to keep track. Sorry. Anyways, that's my opinion. And I'm not gonna fight you. So
Thor, I'm going to suggest that. Oh, I'm sorry, Wayne. I probably just stepped on you and Jim.
Go ahead.
I'm going to suggest that we as a committee come up with, before we take this to the full board, we come up with a plan and a policy and do the work here, and then take that to the full board to either approve or amend. Um, I don't think we should move anything to just move this discussion to the next board meeting without more work on it.
And I do kind of have a draft policy for you guys to review. Um, at least, Kevin and Thor are there. I believe I sent it to you, and we kind of look at that. I still have notes on mine, and kind of still fine tuning it. And that's we have that agenda item, for our last kind of talking point. Um, Jim, do you have a question before I move on from?
I was just gonna suggest to the committee that you, via Marissa, just ask Erin to formulate her opinion, her preferences, and that of her senior staff on this issue. That would certainly help me a lot if it ever came to a board vote. I'd really value what her perspective is on this question.
Sounds good.
I can have her email you guys. I
You
do
guys
know
mind?
the answer to that right now, but I will have her formally.
Alright.
Ooh, I lost you guys.
She's
address-
on vacation. Leave her alone.
I know. Well, yeah. When she is back from vacation, I will have her write her thoughts into an email. So I do know her personal thoughts on it, but I'm not going to speak to that without her permission right now. But I mean, don't forget that we do follow the CBJ policy already as CBJ employees, but it will need to go through communications and the law department
Alright.
before anything else happens.
In sake of time, because we will talk about that policy at the end of this, I'm gonna move on to the building and community support topic. I was kind of, we're getting to the point now where winter might come back, winter might not come back. We'll see. We can't control the weather. So, I was kind of thinking of ways, to kind of build community sport outside of the ski area or the skiers and the snowboarders and all. So if anybody has any ideas on that, you're welcome to talk about that right now. The big thing that I am looking forward to is those summer camps and all. I think that's kind of a big step in the right direction and kind of builds our kind of family friendly, ski area and kind of keeping the mountain family friendly. Does anybody have anything it's kind of difficult without Tracy and Greg and Aaron here.
Sean, I'd just jump in and say I think it's a great discussion to have for sure. Part of this is just sort of general. We need to make sure that people that aren't skiers or boarders have a sense of the value of Eaglecrest to the community overall. That's sort of an important message that we want to continually be sending as board members and however we can. There's a separate issue that's related to the gondola, where we still have a community that's sort of like, do we really need this? Why are we doing this? Tracy has started an excellent, I think it's a weekly FAQ on the website where it described in some detail what the gondola project is, why we're doing it, why it's important in the ski area, how the timeframes and how it's likely to unfold over the next few years, as an effort just to sort of get everyone on the same page about what this big project is about. So stay tuned on that front, but I think that's a really great thing that we'll need going forward. But yeah, Sean, at this point in time, with the discussion around governance and our budget challenges and uncertainty about the gondola, whatever we can do to sustain and build community support is going to be really important for us.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was kind of thinking like, if you guys have any ideas, we could kind of cater more to those summer hikers and runners, events that we can hold to kind of bring that community more up to Eaglecrest. I was thinking kind of like a summer powder keg or something like that would be pretty neat. Or just being really communicative on, what trails are getting updated or fixed or kind of updates on that. I think I also saw something where Jackson Hole has like a kind of an archery type of course and all. And that's something I think that we can kind of build that hunter community, though you're not able to hunt in Eaglecrest. A lot of people use that for access and all. So kind of building something that they can use on the mountain, whether it's a course or something would be pretty neat, and work with Fish and Game on that. Um, Other ideas is kind of those summer camps though, and talking with Sail and Discovery Southeast, and the Zach Gordon Youth Center, how to kind of help get more camps up there. And if someone is using it, like um, kind of seeing if we can kind of work with them on that, but also, oh, Thor, go ahead.
Yeah, something I've heard from my friends in the community and something I've been curious of myself are uh, steadfast rules on access to the Upper Nordic Loop with cross-country skis. People have been saying that you can ride Hooter with Nordic skis. I've heard people say they've been turned away by the lift attendants. I'm not totally sure. Another one is our dogs allowed on the Nordic Loop. Apparently, there's a smaller dog run there. Yeah, yeah. Marissa's
So yeah,
they're
I'm
not
I'm
sure.
pretty sure there's a policy, and I think Brian sent it to me, where if you're on the lift, you have to have metal edges and you have to have some type of braking device.
Yeah, so to me,
Period.
that's another rumor, but pretty good one
Yeah.
here in a board meeting. So,
Yeah.
if you're gonna send anything on Marissa, or if our
Oh,
marketing team is gonna review
Sorry.
this, um, I think that would be a way to um, deepen community support by sharing that, and maybe more people would come to enjoy the area because confusion tends to prevent involvement.
Sorry, I had to take a quick phone call in the middle of what Thor was saying. I think there was probably just a little bit of mistraining on some newer lifties on what our actual policy and procedure is on that. But the last I heard is you are allowed to ride Hooter as long as you have a leash.
Nordic ski leash.
On your Nordic ski leash, yep.
Should get some of those.
But it has been probably 2 years since that question has been asked to
yeah.
me in the
I
office.
I think it's also hard for me to sometimes find those policies. And that's where like kind of
on our
having
website.
our Eaglecrest policy would be nice,
Yeah.
first straight to this. I'm pretty sure that there is something about metal edges, you know, that being
Yeah.
required. But
So
that was
and the my question is not to get to the bottom of it. My question is to or I guess my comment is to suggest that whoever does understand the bottom of it could promote that. And that might garnish some more public support. Anyways,
Yeah. Yeah, that's
maybe
a
that's
great.
on topic for the agenda.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I can make a note to make sure we get something on our website, like our official policy too, would probably be helpful.
Yeah, another big
Um,
one too. Sorry, Marissa, to interrupt.
Go
Is
for it. No,
whether or not
I'm
your
here.
Nordic skiing pass will get you a Hooter bump.
It does get you a Hooter bump. I know that much. From the programming side. I mean, I think it's still set up right. It should be. Your pass should get you a Hooter bump. So
I'm gonna be ripping Hooter on my skate skis, guys. I don't need to use the pass
make
anymore.
sure to follow our uphill traffic policy if you are not riding the trip.
And then so then moving forward to another thing I wanted to look into, which I
Before you
haven't.
go too far, I put a link in for the gondola reports in the chat bar if anybody's interested.
Oh, thanks, Wayne. Is kind
Oh,
of
I guess actually, sorry, on our website it does say no plastic or non-metal edge skis or snowboards are allowed on chairlifts or trails.
mhm,
That's kind of what's on our chairlift use policy,
mhm.
just so you guys are aware.
Sounds good. So that's where kind of maybe a comment. See, that's where a comment might be helpful. Like, here's this, refer to this. So that's what's kind of nice, So we'll kind of play with that idea. Another thing I was kind of thinking of just kind of moving forward and keeping the meeting going is kind of youth employment, building just more for building, the community and all. Like SEL has that YEP program, and there's kind of funds within the state there to kind of foster, you know, youth employment and stuff like that. So that's something I kind of would like to reach out, kind of learn a little more about. Um, I think there's some mountains that do kind of mentorship programs with ski school, ski patrol, and then also summer, you know, there could be an option there for trail maintenance and stuff like that. And that kind of just kind of shows, you know, the community that we're supporting the youth and that's our main focus. I mean, that's one of my main focuses is making sure more kids and all are using the mountain and taking advantage of that. But that's kind of my ideas there, or potential ideas for building more community support. If anybody has any more kind of they want to discuss, you know, we can kind of discuss, you know, either, you know, at the next time. I'm kind of just wanting to move forward and kind of keep the it going so we can talk about the social media policy. So if anybody has any pressing ideas on building community support, speak now. If not, I'm going to kind of move on to the next one. Don't hear anybody. So the next one is kind of upcoming marketing campaigns. I was just kind of hoping to get a gauge of that. We have the public event calendar, which kind of shows us kind of the public events and stuff like that, what's happening on the mountain. I was thinking it'd be kind of nice to know kind of what the potential campaigns for the next couple months are and stuff like that, to see how that's going and if, you know, Aaron or marketing needed any support from the board and we can make sure that we're all kind of aligned on that. Um, and also kind of wanted to explore other outlets, you know. The big thing is KTOO. Like for me, I feel like a lot of people get a lot of their what's going on and a lot of their community kind of news and all from KTOO. And then also kind of want to look at like, you know, is there other ways we can do it without social media, you know? One of my thoughts are, you know, there's these podcasts, you know, and podcasts seem to be kind of blowing up, and there's some pretty big ones in the ski industry, you know, whether it's like, you know, especially like Blister or something. Not sure if you guys are kind of in tune with that, but is that another outlook we can explore and kind of try to reach a cast a bigger net nationally to get Eaglecrest on the map and try to get more people visiting. You know, one of my thoughts is I could need to get a Blister to interview Kevin. You know, um, but anyway, if you guys have any ideas outside of social media, you know, it could be, it might be a good idea just to kind of throw that out as a suggestion and see if it aligns. Because we kind of have to focus locally and nationally. And any comments there?
Look, Queen has one.
Wayne?
Yeah, I appreciate your support of K2, but there's a whole audience that doesn't listen to K2 that is listening to KINY, the AM, and we used to have a fairly strong presence on KINY, snow reports on a daily basis, connection with them to have um, people on their morning couple of blocks at 8:30. So make sure that gets included in your conversation. Don't
Okay.
discount that.
No, yeah, for sure. And I remember hearing Jeffro's reports and all that. And then K2, I mean, when I was over at Sale, that's a way we found a lot of our volunteers when we asked, how'd you guys hear about this? And you'd be like, oh, I was listening to K2, you know, and heard that. So I don't really want to discredit any of the radio stations at all. So it's just another way to reach more people.
Different
I do
audiences.
know we were doing, the GM was doing, I think on Fridays, doing like GM news, I think with KTOO. with that role currently being open, a board member can also do that. If that's something a board member be great for community support from a board member perspective. That is something that Erin has said no to in her interim role. And she's made that fairly clear, I think. But you guys are also welcome as board members to do that.
Yeah, I think the board chair should do that.
Yes. Perfect. Let's.
Yeah, it is one of our, I might even say in the bylaws, but we are ambassadors for the ski area, and interacting with the community at large is something we can and should be doing. There's here in 3 or 4 months, we hope to have a new ski area manager to introduce to the community, and there'll be theoretically could be a lot going on with the gondola here in the next couple of months. So there'll be plenty of interesting things to talk with the community about. So I think, yeah, let's work with Erin and see if, when, and where we can help with this kind of community engagement, because we do want to be engaged, and we want to work on countering what's been kind of a negative narrative around Eaglecrest over the last couple of years.
Not sure, Kevin or Wayne, did you have your hand up first?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, I mean, one of the things that might help this committee, I was just thinking, is that maybe when we meet, we should invite somebody from marketing. Maybe not require them, but it would be great. I was just wondering, well, what are we doing already? Because, and are there reasons we're not doing particular things, either, budgetary or, practical reasons? But it would be great, for example, if every morning the ski report was on the radio or something like that, that but anyway, yeah, I just think in the future it might be really efficient to have somebody here from Eaglecrest marketing.
It looks like they're hopping on now. So
Oh.
I'll promote them in a second here.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Just
I want to echo comments from our Assembly member Christine Wall, who said that, I'll paraphrase her, it's in our best interest to make things more stable here, and that's going to help us recruit. So the more chaos that is visible in the public, the fewer candidates we might have who be interested in jumping in with that. And so, as I've been advising, I'll bring it up again. Having comments off in Facebook on Facebook is generally considered siege mode, and we were there, and so it might improve our standing to have that, and then just for other board members and for marketing, whoever they get here, is to come up with ideas to stabilize things that were changed during the transition. We want to appear normal and healthy, and yeah, there are big changes on the horizon, but that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That's actually really attractive. There are some people who have experience installing infrastructure, developing a workforce, and putting together standard operating procedures for brand new elements in small community assets. That's what we need. So if we can find a way to amplify that and make it seem a little bit less of a siege.
Just a quick comment. If board members are going to become public spokespersons for the ski area, we need to make sure we have talking points so that we stay on message, that we don't wander off into the field of my opinion or someone else's opinion, that we talk about what we have approved as the ski area talking points. Just FYI.
Great points, Wayne. Great.
Thanks, Wayne. And kind of moving forward, I would like to kind of talk about, kind of that draft policy. I'm not sure if Thor and Kevin, if you guys had a chance to kind of look at it.
I actually looked for it in my email when you mentioned it, and I didn't see it. So maybe could you resend it?
Yeah, or maybe did I send it to you, Marissa? Or
You,
I I have an
you
email with
didn't, but I was forwarded it to, one second.
oh,
Brecken also has something to say. Hold on.
While you're looking that, I just wanted to point out, make sure to get it over to Marissa so that we can upload it as supplemental material since it was shared with the group. We want to make sure that it's in the public packet.
Maybe
what,
I,
yeah, what I see, Sean, is just the 14-05 city social media public policy. So
all right. Well, maybe man, I'm pretty sure included it. So kind of moving forward, we might just need to wait to kind of go through that. But kind of in the grand scheme of things, I really took in CBJ 1405 and kind of used that as the framework there. The big thing is mainly just, including the air, instead of it just saying the managers, city manager, I included the GM of Eaglecrest, and also just kind of reworded stuff, instead of saying go to the city website, first go to the Eaglecrest website and review that. Um, so, so probably we need to wait to discuss this then. Is that what I'm coming up with,
I
Marissa, until
that
that is a public?
you guys can, I found it in my inbox. You guys can discuss it, but I will add it to the agenda packet.
Okay.
I mean, it will need to be added to the agenda packet since it was, a document that was talked about.
And then
And
it
then
does
Kevin,
look
I
like
did just forward it to you.
okay. And it does look like I included Thor and Kevin in that one. Um, so moving forward, what do you guys recommend? Do you guys want to kind of review that and discuss it later? Or do you kind of want to me to go through some of my points on that right now?
I think um I think I would love to know what Aaron thinks about it. Um, and I think that would be a pretty good prelude to, support from the board at large. Just to mention Jim's comments too. We don't want to push anything toward Aaron. We want to do things collaboratively. And so I'd
Hmm.
like to know what she thinks about it. And then depending on what she thinks, perhaps we bring it back to the committee level, stab it with a red pen or put it on a conveyor belt.
Sounds good. I would second that opinion there. So yeah, so let's just kind of get
I
that.
I will let you know she has read it.
All right.
She has read it. Yeah, there's some strong opinions. I'm sure she will
All
let
right.
you know.
I might ask if it's far enough along to share it with Emily. It'd be good to get her perspective on it before we get too far down the road working with it.
Yeah, I think I did forward it to Emily, but I'll make sure that's been sent to her. Yeah.
Sounds good. So moving forward, it sounds like we'll get Aaron's kind of comments on that. We'll also get Emily's comments, and then kind of kick it back to this committee, and then kind of move forward collaboratively with Aaron. Does that sound good? Sweet.
Yeah, I
All
think
right.
that sounds great.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. And then is there
Oh,
anything else anybody wants to talk about before we end the meeting here shortly?
Yeah, under the heading of good news, Jim found a link to a website this morning from Snowbrains. I just put the link in there in the chat bar so you can all go see it. But Eaglecrest is one of the top 10 independent ski resorts left in the U.S.
I
That's
think
kind of a
our media team did post that or repost something about that.
Oh, okay.
I saw that in one of our operations chats this
Oh,
morning.
cool.
Yeah.
So kudos to Jim for finding it.
I see we got Tracy and Greg on. Um, we kind of went through the majority of stuff here. Um, is there any kind of comments or anything? You guys were both privileged to the agenda and all that.
Yep. So we're here for the staff report. Are you guys ready for the staff report on the agenda? Okay, perfect. Greg will go ahead and kick us off here.
All right. Since we weren't able to do our staff report this last month, I'm super stoked to showcase the numbers that we have been doing. So when we first started, we were starting with 60K views, and that is between Facebook and Instagram. So 60,000 people were viewing both of those channels. Now we're sitting around an average of 350,000 between the two of those programs, which is super great. And a huge reason for that success is for the amount of videos that we've put out. So we've created 56 reels, which accounts for 48% of all of our social posts. So what's great about that is when we create a reel, it showcases not only to our audience, but also to people who don't follow us. So I'm just taking that 60K alone as kind of our base. So if we were to subtract that from 350,000, we're looking at 290,000 new viewers, which is completely incredible. On the campaign sort of side of things, we have focused a lot on operational, which has accounted for 28% of our posts, followed by Mount Personality showcasing, the great depth of Eaglecrest of, hey, this is us, this is our personality, 27 posts of that sort, which accounts for 23. And then promotional content accounts for 17%. We also have a couple other different categories that are just not mentioned here, where we have sports school, the foundation, but those are our main ones that we have focused on. And then community posts. So we have done 29 collaborations with our community. 17 of them internal, meaning we're the ones that created the content, and collaborated with community businesses or community members. And then we have 12 outside where a business from our community has collaborated with us and we have given them that platform to speak. Some of those include the Juneau Nordic Ski Team, Mountain Adventures, Indy Pass, Sail, Orca, 6 local ambassadors. And it's looking good on the social side of things. Tracy, do you want to talk about marketing?
So some more of like the newsletter, article posts, event posts. We've had about 52 this season of the last 2 months of the newsletters. We sent out 16 of those, and the average open rate is around 49%, which is very highly engaged. Usually email openings are closer to 10%. So that's fantastic. We have a very engaged audience. Where contacts are sitting around 6,600. Of those, 4,500 are subscribed. And new signups since December is 1,100. So we've had a huge increase in new signups for our email newsletter, which is great. We had over 300 signups just for our 50th celebration alone. So that was really cool to see a lot of engagement there. Our article posts, we've had 25 of those. Event posts on our website are 9. You can see those all under the community tab page. Same thing here. So we have different campaigns going on at different percentages. So the main focus that out of these email newsletters and events and posts, 37% has been community events, 28% has been mountain operations, and 14% has been community development. So out of these campaigns, what Greg shared and I shared, those were the we shared the top three. There's about a dozen other topics that we discuss throughout the emails as well. So we have been doing radio campaigns. We are scheduled to do one radio ad per month. We do have every other Friday that we can go on the radio. There has been a transition. We kind of had it paused with our GM resigning. So if any board member would like to jump on one of those calls on Friday morning, you're more than welcome to do so. Erin has expressed that she would like to hold off on those until we have a better transition. But if anybody would like to do those, you're more than welcome. I could set you up. A new item on the website, I've been focusing on the Eaglecrest experience. I think Jim fills you in a little bit earlier on that. There is a new timeline and frequently asked questions. I'm doing one topic per week and then adding that topic onto the website for more information. And the last thing I want to talk about is just February upcoming events. On Valentine's Day, we have a little Valentine's Day fun photo op happening here on the mountain. We also have Bring a Friend Free for our season pass holders. That's on February 14th. And for President's Day holiday, we're open that Monday, February 16th. So awesome. Just wanted to give you guys that nice breakdown. And if you guys have any other specific items that you want to see or learn about, just letting us know in advance and we could just add it on to our staff report.
Looks like Wayne has a quick question.
Just a quick comment. I want to express my sincere appreciation for the great job you guys are doing on the operations report. You put those up starting January 10th, and searching for the correct word, but the amount of hate and discontent emanating through the airways has dropped off dramatically because people now have information. So thank you very, very much.
Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, just curious, the 350,000, what is that? Is that over a particular time frame, or what exactly is that measuring?
Yeah, so that is over a month's time frame, and we've been averaging that. I've been monitoring that now for about 6 weeks. Like our peak, we were sitting around 460,000 people, but I did the math, to even it out within this last 2 months, and we're sitting around 350,000 individual views.
Or a 30-day period?
For a 30-day period, yep.
Yeah, thank you.
And kind of my question too, like, do we see a correlation between the views and sales?
Yes.
Or-
So, are we on the? Okay.
You're good.
Yeah. So we had mentioned this a little bit earlier with one of our posts with Craig talking about our holiday camps. We sold those out once we made a social post, and we also have 311 clicks. So that usually refers to just on Facebook alone when we put a call to action of, hey, to book your lesson today, click the link in our bio. And that is directing traffic to our website. And how Tracy and I have set that up is to make sure that that link goes to where they can find the most information, or if that's where you can buy the product, it's taking you directly there, making the user experience super seamless. So you're not having to hunt on our website to find whatever information you're looking for.
Yeah, whenever we do a specific promotion, we have an email and an article post on the website at the same time that the social post goes out. So there's 3 different ways that you could interact with whatever campaign or post or promotion that we're doing. So, so kind of, it's like a 3 for 1. So it works out really well when you do it that way.
I know we're getting past 1 o'clock, but I'm a data junkie, and I guess one last question is, can we mine that data to determine of the 350,000, how many are Juneauites and how many are from out of state, or what can we do with that data?
Yeah, I could pull those numbers up this next time around, but the top 3 cities are going to be Juneau, Anchorage, and Seattle.
Yeah. Hey, to kind of further that question, Sean asked the exact question I was going to ask, and then Jim tapped in on the data. As far as reporting to the committee, I would love to see trends in revenue alongside successes in marketing, and I think that would speak loudly to your successes. And I know that everything you're doing is contributing to the bottom line. Um, but thinking from a strategic perspective, if we can see what is working really well, we can target that, and what isn't working as well, and we can shift our direction there. And I know that you two are representatives of the general manager here in this meeting, and I know that there's been some discussion about what the board can and can't ask you guys to do. But as far as discussion and purposes go, that report would be really helpful to us, as I think some people would agree. Thanks.
Thor, if you want to, if you would
I
like
would
to,
just sort of
yeah.
wanted to mention quickly that we have a new revenue coordinator, and I think moving forward as a new team, we could definitely get into more detailed items. If there's specific items that you want to work through, we could focus on those and work with our new coordinator.
Let me speak to that a little bit. We don't actually have a new revenue coordinator. We have an interim revenue coordinator. And then Thor, if that's something that you're wanting to see in the agenda packet, if you just email that to me, and then I can do what I do.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. And then just so you guys know, I have uploaded that stuff to the policy to the agenda packet.
All right.
And then yeah, just so you know, it should upload in a minute.
Sounds good. And then since we are over time here, I can, we can close out this meeting, but if anybody or Tracy and Greg, if you want to brief, if you want to just kind of give, or if you want one of us to give you a brief overview, we definitely can. Or if you want to give me a call, I'll be sending out kind of like what we talked about and everything to everybody again, and moving forward from there. But it is past 1, so I think the biggest thing is kind of getting Aaron's comments there on that policy. Super happy with your guys' staff report. That's super helpful. Kind of gives context to us and kind of going forward, and then kind of right going forward too. I'm kind of thinking like, what's our plan here for summer? Already thinking about summer and also so stuff like that. If you guys have ideas or need, support from the board, let Erin know and she can relay that to us and do what we can to help you out. Other than that, is everybody okay with ending this meeting? Someone, before we get a motion to end the meeting, our next meeting date, I believe, is March 4th. Sure. Or wait, no,
sorry.
That's our joint assembly day.
that's the
That also is your next scheduled yeah, sorry,
meeting, so
I'm working from Aaron's office, so my calendar's downstairs. But yeah, that is
So-
your next scheduled meeting.
Okay.
Would you like that to happen? I haven't put it on the calendar yet.
So are you saying you're willing to move it to the 3rd?
That is, I mean,
Sounds
you
good.
will have no employees attending that meeting. That is a off day for us.
Fifth.
That's my way of saying no.
So I'm okay with moving it to the 5th.
Okay.
Kind of work on that too, make sure everybody else.
That is the 5th is a board meeting day, just so you are aware.
Well, maybe we'll kind of talk about scheduling all together, but I'm okay with 2 meetings in one day if everybody else is, and we could just keep with the 4th.
Kevin.
Does that work, the 4th?
Yeah.
The 5th.
You want Wednesday or Thursday? The 4th or the 5th?
Well, the 4th is we actually have something at the exact same time.
Mhm.
Or is that at
no,
5:30?
It's at
But actually,
5:30.
but the 5th I think would be better.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the 5th, we will have our 12 p.m. meeting and then our 5:30 general board meeting. Okay. Oh, Brecken has something.
Sorry, my computer's a little slow here. I just wanted to remind the group that since this is a smaller committee, quorum is different. And so when you're communicating to each other through email, quorum is two. So you can't work out with a partner like you may normally do on the board. And instead, all of your work needs to happen in your committee. So I just wanted to remind the group at the tail end of the meeting.
Anyone have any questions on that?
I'm sorry, I said quorum is two, quorum is three.
All right. Sounds good. Anybody have any questions? So even like brainstorming, Brecken, all has to happen within this meeting, or reviewing stuff has to happen within this meeting.
Yes, I apologize. I had two in my head. It is three, so you can talk with one other person. But really, when you're doing work, you should not have like a draft document that you're sharing with all of the members of this subcommittee. That needs to happen in the committee. You could partner up with one other person because you do not want to be at quorum and have like serial meetings happening in email. If you're in doubt, feel
Reach out.
free, feel free
All
to
right.
email city.clerk or Marissa. And really, it would be good practice to just include Marissa in most of your emails. That way she knows, like, oh, this is something I probably need to put in my packet, or she can kind of correct and help with that as well. Because it gets tricky when you have different committees with different numbers for quorum and that sort of a thing.
All right. Sounds like a plan. Anybody have any more questions for Brecken? All right, could I get
Do the same rules apply for advisory boards?
Correct.
Oh, bummer.
Yeah.
well, on that note, does anybody want to make a motion to finish the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
And then I'd second that. So we'll close out this meeting. And then with a tentative date of March 5th for our next committee meeting. And hope you guys all get up there and get some skiing in. And hopefully we get some more snow. There's more snow in the forecast next week, so fingers crossed.
Oh yeah, there'll be more snow.
We're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Just getting started.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.